If you're just grabbing a task book and trying to fill that thing out on the hood of your truck on the last day of the assignment, and you don't have any of these things, you could do it. It's going to be pretty tough, and it won't be a very thorough evaluation of the job that the person did.
Yeah, and then you'll be a bad firefighter.
Yes.
This is the Wildfire Lessons Podcast, where we promote learning by revealing the complexity and risk in the wildland fire service. We share the lessons. The learning that follows is up to you.
Hello, everybody out there in wildland fire world. Travis Dotson here. And on today's episode, we're going to be chatting about all the pieces that you need to be successful when using a next generation task book from NWCG. We'll get into a little bit of the background and then give you some real tangible takeaways about how to be successful with these new task books. So let's get in there and do a little bit of learning.
All right. Welcome to another edition of the Wildfire Lessons Podcast. And Eric, it's great to have you with us again.
Thank you. It's always great to talk with you, Travis.
All right. Let's do introductions for our new listeners. I think there's a whole bunch of them out there. We're very popular.
Really? Wow. They saw our billboard on the side of the highway. I am Erik Apland. I'm the Field Operations Specialist at the Wildland Fire Lessons Learned Center. It took me a second to remember my title.
Yeah.
And who are you?
Sweet. I am Travis Dotson, and I am the analyst at the Wildland Fire Lessons Learned Center. And we are going to talk about lots of stuff around task books. I keep saying we're going to talk about the next gen task books, but actually it's not that much about the task books themselves that we're going to talk about.
Right. And that's kind of the point, actually. Like when we first started talking about this a couple of weeks ago, I think it was kind of around, it isn't just task books. And the new task books are different. And sort of importantly with that are these other pieces that really have to go along with the task book. It's kind of this whole ecosystem of products that is part of this training, performance training modernization.
Yeah. And I think the point, right, is we realized we were doing the same thing that a lot of people in the field are doing, which is focusing on the piece that we're used to and has the interaction, right?
Right.
The task book itself is very important to us individually, mostly as trainees, and then those of us that are trainers, you know what I mean? Like, and we're putting a whole bunch of focus on that part of it. Mm-hmm. But it turns out you can't actually use the next gen task books in a vacuum. You can't use them by themselves effectively. So maybe we should talk a little bit about that. And you mentioned it. What was the words that you used?
So all of this is part of the incident performance and training modernization effort that NWCG has been going through now for I don't know how many years, but several years. A lot of hard work by a lot of people to put all this together. And so they've created these performance support packages that go along with the actual task book itself. Yeah.
Yes. And I remember hearing about this in theory, and it's happening now. And it I remember it being like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Like there should be, if you're going to pursue a position, a qualification, that there would be support for how to proceed through that, position. And one of them would be, hey, there's going to be this handbook, or you know what I mean? That's like a thing that says how to do all the tasks and what exactly that consists of. And then there's going to be, you know what I mean? There's this whole, like you said, ecosystem to support both the trainee and the trainer on all the different aspects that it takes to, rather than here's this task book that gets interpreted all kinds of different ways by lots of different people. And yeah, of course, none of this is going to solve that problem because we're dealing with humans.
Right.
Ooh, we could talk about clocks and clouds, but we won't. No, we won't do that. I think we've done that enough times. But yeah, this whole system, and there are resources, like if you want to dig into what is that program IPTM, then there's lots of resources out there to help you understand that whole system.
Yeah, exactly. And in prep for this podcast, because this was, I mean, as we'll talk about, this is not something that I knew a lot about. I hadn't been tracking with this super closely. I would see the emails when it would say, hey, a new task book has been released for this position, a new next gen task book has been released. And I would look at it and say, oh, that's cool, there's a new one. But, as far as diving into this super closely, I hadn't been. The trainee stuff that I've got going on right now, it's all, stuff that I got several years ago. None of them are next gen task books. The one that I am physically carrying that have ink in them already. So it wasn't something that I had dug into a lot. Yeah, and it's interesting because in a way, I think you could see it as like an additional step from like where we were, say, let's see, it would be about 40 years ago or 35 years ago when we didn't have task books yet. And it was very subjective, like, well, I think Bob did a great job, so now he's an engine boss, that kind of thing. And then we had the task book, and that's an improvement, but it didn't have that piece of like, okay, but what is it? Like, what are these tasks? What does it mean? How do you do it well? And so I feel like this is a logical step that I never actually really thought about when I was, in operations every day. It was just like, oh yeah, there's a task book. And you kind of read it and you're like, I think I basically understand what this means. Good enough, But there's a lot of room for subjectivity in the system as it was, that's not changing.
Yeah. Did you ever have like a trainer interpret, like, how they have all the little boxes that were like examples of things that, a field observer might do, and have a trainer that's like, well, nope, you didn't do that one right there.
Yeah, exactly. you didn't do this exactly, so you can't.
Yeah. And I've seen task books where people initialed each little bullet.
Oh, wow. That's different.
So yeah, of course there's some interpretation, subjectivity and stuff like that. And I don't, one of the things we discovered, right, and a lot of this is us working on an issue of two more chains, but it's like subjectivity was actually designed into the system.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That it's kind of that onus on the local person going, hey, ultimately you need to decide whether or not this person is ready to go out and be a XXX, you know what I mean? A firefighter type 1 or engine boss or whatever. And, that still exists in this system, but there also is pretty consistent movement towards, hey, let's make it a little more standard.
Yes.
And even just a little bit more easier to navigate and interpret, right? Let's put more information out there. So, yeah, like, but the first question we have on our little outline is, do people know about this?
Yeah. That it's a great question, and it's a hard one for me to answer. I don't know how many people know about this whole, like I said, this whole ecosystem of products around new task books, but I will say that I didn't. And so, from my perspective, no, people didn't because I didn't. Whether
you are people,
I'm one of the people. So, whether or not, well, I don't know how common my experience is, but I didn't know. And I feel like I do try to stay at least somewhat up on things, based on my job in the fire service now. I don't know. What do you think about it?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of our workforce that are in that realm. Like, oh yeah, no, I've heard of next gen task books. That's cool. And they're not going to put much thought into it until they encounter one as a trainer.
Yes.
Or as a trainee, they're like, oh yeah, like the next qual that I'm going after happens to be a next gen task book. All right, I guess I'll see what that's like. And then they get the next gen task book and they're like, oh yeah, you fill it out differently, and that's the problem. Because I think that's because we're going to interact with task books the way that we normally interact with task books,
exactly.
print it out and see if they're going to issue it to you, and they say, yeah, you got all the classes, whatever. Okay, now you have next, and then you're not going to think anything about it until you get an assignment. Then you're going to go on the assignment, and then you go and you hand it to the person that has the power. And if you do it that way, you're missing a major part of this new system.
Right.
And same thing on the trainer side. If you just wait until you encounter them in the field and somebody hands you a task book and it's in this new format and you're thinking, oh, it's just a format thing. How is it that I'm supposed to, okay, now I guess I have to do this and that. You're kind of missing a whole big part of it.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, the way that it's laid out now, I printed out one for a qualification that I'm working on for prescribed fire burn boss type 2. Like I said, I had an existing one from before this one. This is the new one, which was issued May of last year, 2024. And if you look at it, like, it's similar in many ways, like, and it still does have these areas and these tasks. But like, for instance, task number 32 is coordinate the monitoring of smoke impacts and adjust accordingly. And that's it. It doesn't have bullet points under that. And so if I were a trainer, say, and I saw that, and I would say, well, did Erik do that? Well, yeah, I remember him asking about the smoke. Okay. He did it successfully, but that's not really the full picture of what that looks like. So like you're saying, if you just pick up one of these cold and you haven't looked through it and you haven't looked at the supporting documentation, there's a lot missing, actually. You're only getting
that's the piece right there. They're supporting documentation, those other pieces, right? Yeah. So what are those? And how does it play in?
Yeah. So the other pieces we have, let's see. So there's the task book itself, and then you have the associated. There's an actual position description that describes this is what it does. These are all the different elements of it. So for this, if we're continuing to go down this prescribed fire burn boss example, then it has the planning phase, it has the implementation phase, it has the monitoring phase, like all of these things. And it describes all the tasks that are associated with that. And we also...
Seems really helpful.
Extremely helpful, right? Oh, essentially a job description for the job that you're wanting to
for
get.
the position.
Yeah. Makes sense. And then you also have these incident position standards for each of these qualifications. And those are really, that's kind of the real... most detailed supporting documentation for these, because that's where you will go through this. And for each of those elements, for each of those tasks, it has a lot of information about how you do it, what the different pieces are. And actually it has like resources. This is what you'll need to do this, which is great, super handy.
Which would be handy again for both the trainer and the trainee, because you could look in there with the position or the example that you had of adjust accordingly on the smoke monitoring, right?
Yeah.
Like as a trainer, and you had that question, well, did Erik do that? Like you could go to that task in that book and look at it, and it gives somewhat like a description in there.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's got all of these how to accomplish task, and then it's got bullet points underneath it. Identify the need for short-term and long-term monitoring. Like actually assign smoke monitors. Road guards. Assign a FEMO to document smoke. All that kind of stuff. Like all these different pieces, as well as even before that, it says resources to complete the task, and it's got the burn plan. That makes sense. You need the people to actually do it. Okay. And then two publications, Smoke Management Guide and Smoke and Roadway Safety Guide. So that's great. And I can tell you that when I burned, I don't know, a month ago, we monitored smoke. We put folks out on the road. Smoke never impacted the road, which was good. But I didn't have those guides. I can tell you that. And in the future I will, because I didn't actually know about this whole system when I was doing that assignment.
I just think it's like, given the number of task books that I've been through, the fact that there is now someplace where it has the words "how to complete tasks."
Yeah.
I think like that's amazing.
Yeah, it is.
I think that's like super cool. And I know that like sometimes it's like, oh, it's a no-brainer. The task book is almost a formality because you've learned how to do it. But that's not always true, right?
Definitely
like
not.
there's times when the task book is how you learn to do the job.
Sure. Absolutely.
Right. And I would just be like, oh, that'd be amazing if I get this thing where, hey, I'm going to pursue this qualification. And there's someplace else where it says how to complete tasks.
Right. Exactly.
I love that. Right. And then I can learn how to do it. And then I can go and I have an assignment and somebody says, oh, you didn't do it right. And I'm going to be going back to the book and be like, well, I learned it from right here. You know what I mean? And I might still have done it wrong, or I might might have some insight. That's great.
Sure.
But what a great place to have that dialogue around a set of instructions, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I feel like, now going into another assignment, I don't know, it's pouring rain here. So maybe sometime in the not too distant future, this is something that I'm going to look through. Even though I have an old task book, like that's okay because so many of these tasks are similar or like literally the same. And it has all these pieces and all these other tools and things to sort of think about. And, none of that was really associated with the previous task books. At least it wasn't directly tied to them in the same way. I think, that information theoretically would be in the training that you took, right? These would be
Sure.
pieces of those courses, of those prerequisite courses. But now it's like, well, here it is. You're actually doing it now. You may have taken that class 5 years ago. And so here it is all together in one place. Yeah.
And I guess that's the test right there, right? So you don't have a next gen task book, but you are currently a trainee. Mm-hmm. You're still going to use those standards and references, like because they're useful.
Oh yeah, I mean, I definitely will, and I'm gonna once I get this is a good reminder. This podcast is a good reminder to follow up with my task book because it's still sitting on someone's desk. But once I get that thing back, I'm gonna look at them closely and see how do they differ exactly. Do they differ in significant ways? Because I would bet that they don't, because the job is the same, And so there are pieces of this that before I do this again, I'm going to look through and make sure I'm not missing something.
And that's the thing, right? The job hasn't changed, but the support available to the trainee and trainer has changed significantly.
Yes.
And that's the thing that's different is there's this whole, and they're working on these job aids. And the job aids aren't always specific to the position, but there is a whole bunch of relevant job aids.
Right. That's the other piece that I think I didn't mention when you were asking about what the elements of that support package are. The job aids are another one. And I looked through that page earlier and just saw what was there. And there's about 25 of them or something like that are currently in there. Some of them are legacy ones that were produced, 20 years ago and are still there. But many of them are brand new, in the past, say 2 or 3 years. So those are there too. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I know of one that would have helped on some drama with a lot of single resource boss task books that I'm aware of. Can you guess which job aid it is?
Single resource boss. Oh, no, I don't know.
I love the title of it. How to correctly fill out the crew time report.
That is that's good.
Like, have you seen all the different ways that people fill out CTR?
Oh yeah, and I've done many of them. I've even signed portions of them that I wasn't supposed to sign. There's all kinds of things you could do wrong in those.
But I've seen some arguments over what is the correct way, and maybe it's helpful to have.
Yeah.
Be like, oh, okay, you can both be right, but here's what the job aid says.
Yeah, absolutely. I think particularly with those things, there tends to be, we're using the CTR book. I mean, my gosh, how long? Yeah. That thing's decades old, right? And it works. But there tends to be drift, I think, over time. Oh, yeah. And particularly if you could get drift within certain geographic areas or within certain units, and then it's like, yeah, absolutely. It makes sense. You come back to a standard. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, as more of those job aids get created, the more it's just another library of support material for people to access. But the main thing, I think, is, man, it's not as simple as just opening up this new task book and using it the way that you have in the past.
Exactly.
So if you were giving advice to somebody, say and somebody said, hey, I'm going to open up my Engine Boss task book or my Firefighter Type 1 task book, like, what would you tell them?
I would tell them not to be like me, in the sense that I often would say in the past, I would often just say, well, I'll just download the thing, print it out, and I'll figure it out. And not necessarily read even the instructions, even with the old task book, not necessarily read the instructions on it. With this new whole, package system, I would say it will actually help you to do the work, as it often does. It will actually help you to put in the work ahead of time of getting anything that's related to that position that you want to get, whether there's a job aid for it that's relevant. Like you're saying, so for either of those positions, Firefighter 1 or for Engine Boss, that, how to fill out the CTR book, that's very relevant to both of those, right? That's something you're going to be doing. So look for that, look for the job description or the position description, sorry. And then, look for the standards guide as well, and look through them. If it will pay dividends, down the road as you try to do this. Obviously you still have to perform. You still have to go out there and do the job. This isn't going to do the job for you, but it will help. Really, it will help. And it just takes a little bit of prep time beforehand, and not to fall into that. The advice, I guess, is not to fall into that thing of just, I'll figure it out, which is a very common thing, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then on the other side, well, I guess I would add to that advice, which is print it out, right? When you print your task book, don't just print the task book like you're used to. Print out the position standards for you, but also for your trainer. Yeah. Because it's very likely that your trainer is also not aware of this whole system.
Yes.
And I, if I was doing a next gen task book, or if I was, now that I know if I'm going as a trainer and I see that the position has one of those new task books, if they didn't hand it to me, then I would go get it. I would go get it. I would go figure that out, print that out, and try to get familiar so that I'm doing the system right. Yeah. But I could see that being low likelihood. And so I think the onus, like a lot of things, goes on the trainee. Mm-hmm. It's like, hey, when you show up and you have a pretty dialed operation and you have your task book all neat in a folder and you have extra sheets to sign and all of that stuff, it just makes you look a little bit more dialed. Mm-hmm. I would make sure to have that position standards document as part of your task book package, and then just let the trainer know, hey, here's the position standards. If you haven't done one of these before, like, that thing's pretty helpful, or it has been for me. Mm-hmm. Obviously up to you, but if you and if they're open to it, I would maybe explain how the whole thing works.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it just makes you look good.
Yeah, it does. Right.
If you can not offend them, of
right.
course they're the expert, they're the qualified person. But at that point, you're just talking about a system. You're not talking about like how to start the pump or whatever.
Right. And, in a new system, and I think one that's being phased in, right? It's not like the old task books are the classics, as they're calling them. It's not like those are bad. Like if you're still carrying one from previously, we're going to be seeing those for another few years, I would think, before they eventually expire, but or are completed. But it's this slow phase-in process, and they're also not all of the next-gen task books have even been created. So this is going to be a learning process for everyone. Absolutely.
So I think that's kind of it.
Yeah. No sense in belaboring it. So,
I mean, what's the walkaway message?
I think the walkaway message is, if you're either a trainee or a trainer, and you're in any kind of organization that uses this system, that uses NWCG and uses the task books, that these next gen task books are different, and that the way that they're different, well, there's a few ways, but an important way that they're different is that there are these supporting documents, this whole supporting package, and it is critical and helpful to use them and keep them with the task book. That's what I would say.
Yeah. And I think ultimately it's going to be helpful. If nothing else, it's going to create some good discussion. You know what I mean? Yeah. Even if you look through the position standard, you go, it's not exactly how I would word that or whatever. That's fine.
Yeah, totally. Right.
But the idea is there's support package around these things. And then there's all kinds of other stuff around it. Like, I think there's, like some of that wording about like part of the reason why this whole effort took place. One of the things is trying to increase the speed to competency. Mm-hmm. Like, get faster at cranking people out that are qualified. Mm-hmm. And part of the way we're doing that is by providing some support.
Right.
And some sideboards, and you know what I mean? Like, that's all. And then, wildland fire people get cranky about like how quickly somebody gets qualified, all of that stuff, and pencil whipping. And, there's all that kind of stuff. That's fine for people to have those debates and stuff like that. But outside of all of that,
yeah,
like you said, that walk away is just like, man, don't just treat this as the way you've done it in the past, but as if the task book is an item by itself. It is tied to these other pieces, and you're doing it wrong if you're not including those other pieces in your process.
Yeah, I really like that. Yeah, exactly. That's it. If you're just grabbing a task book and trying to fill that thing out on the hood of your truck on the last day of the assignment, and you don't have any of these things, you could do it. It's going to be pretty tough, and it won't be a very thorough evaluation of the job that the person did.
Yeah, and then you'll be a bad firefighter.
Yes.
When did we get so negative?
Not me.
You're usually so positive.
I'm always smiling and laughing when I'm talking to you.
That's true. It's true. All right. Well, use the system.
That's right.
And be glad that we have a system that supports us like this. Not everybody has this kind of stuff. Pretty cool that we have job aids and position descriptions and standards and all of that stuff. And be grateful for all the people that are doing this really tedious work behind the scenes to create this stuff. It's pretty amazing to have to overhaul a system like that.
Absolutely. It's a gigantic system, and it would be a lot of work if it were just one agency. It would be a lot of work if this were just, the state of Minnesota wants to come up with a new system. It's not. It's every state, every federal agency, the military. All the people who use this. It's enormous. So this is quite an undertaking, and it's very useful. This is a positive step forward.
Absolutely. All right. That's all we got.
Cool.
Use the lessons, everybody.
Okay, there's the episode. You now have the information to be successful with the Next Gen Task Book. Make sure to do your homework. Make sure to get the materials and become familiar with these things. And as far as locating the materials that we referenced in this episode, when you're on NWCG's website and you go to the positions, there's a bunch of different ways to get to the positions, but you'll find your way to the position that you are interested in or pursuing. Say it's firefighter type 1, and you eventually get to that page where it says firefighter type 1. There's options on the left hand side, and one of those options is standards and references, and that's where you're going to find the position standards document that we talk about quite a bit. So that's just a little tip on how to find what you need. So now you got it all. Just got to get out there and do it. All right. See you on the next one.
Thank you for listening to the Wildfire Lessons Podcast. Don't forget to head on over to lessons.wildfire.gov to get all the latest information from the Wildland Fire Lessons Learn Center. You can subscribe to our email list and follow us on social media. Music is provided by second-generation smoke jumper Steve Baker, who always likes to keep one foot in the black. Thanks, Steve. Remember, we honor through learning.